New York's master chefs. Adventures in food, featuring some of New York's most exciting restaurants and menus prepared by the master chefs who created them. This delightful neighborhood is at 70th Street and Lexington Avenue on New York's Upper East Side. And it's the home of Lawrence Forgione's restaurant, An American Place. No chef has been more closely identified with the rediscovery of our American culinary roots than Lawrence Forgione. While he has always displayed solid technique with imaginative recombinations of traditional themes, what is most striking about Forgione's cooking is his commitment to finding and using top-quality American ingredients from all parts of the country.
You can't have great food without great ingredients. What I tried to do and started to do was to reestablish the relationship between farmer and chef. And today we get 60% of our ingredients directly from farmers themselves.
Working with these ingredients, Forgione has developed a highly distinctive style. A 1974 graduate of the American Culinary Institute, he went to England and trained at London's Connaught Hotel. Returning to America, he soon began to make his mark in the kitchens of several restaurants. Finally, in 1983, he realized a long-held goal by opening his own restaurant, An American Place, named for Alfred Stieglitz's gallery of the 30s.
The restaurant was dedicated to the sole use of American ingredients. American cooking today is probably the most exciting style of cooking that's being done in this country. It's the most versatile, it's the most interesting, it's the most creative.
Chef Forgione has selected a fish terrine, combining a mousse of fresh fish with smoked whitefish, smoked sturgeon, and smoked salmon. This appetizer is served with a sour cream sauce, garnished with caviar of whitefish, sturgeon, and salmon.
The first step in making the terrine is the process of making a mousse, which is putting the fish and smoked whitefish into a food processor and pureeing it until smooth. When all of the pieces of fish have been pureed, you add the egg yolks. The egg yolks will bind the mousse and give it body. Then you add the egg whites, which will lighten it and give it its firmness. And you scrape down the sides to make sure that all of the egg whites have been completely incorporated, which is very essential to this. The egg whites have to be completely incorporated before you add any of the other ingredients. When so, you add the cream until it reaches a nice, fluffy, white consistency. You season it with salt and pepper and a few drops of Tabasco. It has that fluffy consistency that you're looking for, so you have a mousse that has firmness, but at the same time has a nice airiness to it. The mousse is scraped down into a bowl on ice, or if the mousse was to get warm, you would have the problem of the ingredients separating. We'll put chopped parsley in. We're laying out the fillets of smoked salmon and smoked sturgeon. The first step in the assembly is you carefully line a lightly buttered terrine mold with the mousse which will give you your outside edge of your terrine. So when you slice it, it's completely surrounded by mousse and therefore not breaking. You use a straight edge spatula or a rubber spatula that's a little flexible so you can make sure that the mousse is smooth. When layering in the fish, you try to get the same amount of mousse between each layer. So when you slice it, you have an equal proportion of mousse, smoked fish, mousse, smoked fish, and so on down the terrine. The fillets of smoked salmon and smoked sturgeon are alternated through the terrine, again to give you that color and definition. You finish off the terrine by putting in that last bit of mousse, and again to the same thickness as all of the other layers. You smooth off the top. Wipe the edges so they don't burn. Cover them with buttered parchment paper or butter wrappers, and then you gently tap the terrine to make sure that there's no air pockets. Then you put a double layer of aluminum foil on top of the buttered paper. Place it in a roasting pan with hot water and put it in your preheated 350-degree oven for 35 to 45 minutes. Let it cool slightly and then place it in a refrigerator, preferably overnight or at least for 12 hours. I serve the terrine with a champagne sour cream dressing. When making the dressing, you add the egg yolks and a little bit of water and whisk it until you have a light, frothy consistency. And you slowly pour in the oil to cause an emulsification, and then once the emulsification has started, you alternate pouring in the vinegar and the oil until it's completely incorporated. You season it with salt and pepper. You add the sour cream to it, whisk it in completely, again until it's completely incorporated. Lastly, you would add the champagne right before serving, and this way you would keep that clean, crisp taste of the champagne. To unmold the terrine, you put a warm, sharp knife around the edges to free it from the sides. Carefully turn it over to unmold it. The terrine should come out completely. If you have a little problem like this, you just carefully pick up the piece of top layer and lay it in. To serve the terrine, you slice it about 3/4 of an inch thick, very carefully with that sawing motion as not to tear the fish through the terrine. Place approximately 2 to 2.5 ounces of the sour cream champagne dressing and roll it on the bottom of the plate, just so you have a thin layer of sauce on the bottom. Around the edge of the plate, you put chopped egg whites, minced onions, the chopped egg yolks, and chopped parsley. Carefully place the slice of terrine in the center of the plate, and around it in 3 points you put a dollop of whitefish caviar, sturgeon caviar, and salmon caviar. There was one thing that Jim Beard said to me a long time ago: when you go through this evolutionary process of being creative, you have a tendency to be over-creative. And he said that, yes, but is it fun? And realize that the food has to be fun, and the terrine is a fun situation. It's combining 3 types of fish that have been smoked and combining those with the caviars that come from those 3 fish. It's just sort of a play on words and has that approach of just being a fun dish. I would tend to serve this with the remaining champagne that you use to add to the sauce.